Welcome to the Broker Insights Podcast, the show where topics and discussion focus on everything real estate. With your host, award-winning multi-million-dollar realtor, managing broker, coach, author, and Inman News columnist, John Giffen. The latest Broker Insights Podcast begins right now.
Welcome, everyone. This is the second episode of the Broker Insights Podcast. I'm John Giffen, Director of Broker Operations for Benchmark Realty in Franklin, Tennessee. I'm glad you're joining us today. I am recording this podcast in the summer of 2020. Actually, it is just a few days after July 4th. It's a hot summer in Middle Tennessee. No matter where you are, you may be listening to this podcast in the winter and you're probably freezing to death. But if you are listening to it where it's warm, you know how I feel. It is extremely hot. I think we got up to 95 today. It felt like 195 with the humidity. Tennessee has an incredible way to get really hot in the summer and, in my opinion, really cold in the winter. Nashville, Franklin is located just south of Nashville, and we have the benefit of having all four seasons. We're probably one of the few places that really can experience that. I think our warm weather is now a little bit longer. Our winters are not as bad as they used to be. Actually, they've been pretty mild the last few years. But anyway, enough about the weather. You didn't tune in to hear a meteorological diatribe on hot and cold. Today, I'm going to talk about something that we really do need to talk about. Social media. As real estate professionals, we use social media. It's one of the biggest tools that we have. When I got into the business, we didn't have social media. Back then, and it hadn't been that long ago, but in the early 2000s, if I go back to when I got married, and if you said which was in 1986, if you said the word social media, that probably meant the column that appeared in the newspaper on Sundays, which we used to call probably the society page or the society column. That would be social media. Well, social media today is, that terminology relates to everything from Facebook to Twitter, to LinkedIn, to Instagram, now TikTok. I can't keep up with the post. It's just incredible. In fact, when I host my podcast on Buzzsprout, which is if you're thinking about doing a podcast, it's a great hosting site, very reasonable. And they syndicate this podcast to, I believe, 12 different sites. I didn't realize that there were 12 podcast sites. And some of those are fairly new, but some of them, like Apple, the Apple Podcast, which we used to call iTunes, which is still called iTunes on the computer, I believe. But they separated their podcasts from iTunes. Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. These are big, in a sense, not really, I don't know if we call them social media, but they're podcast sites. But on the social media side, the traditional social media side, like Facebook and Twitter and the others, as I mentioned, those have become incredible platforms for agents to advertise their listings, to maybe tell a little bit about themselves, share their closings. We see a lot, especially this time of year when we have a lot of closings. We're sort of at the peak of the season for closings, even amid the COVID. My company just experienced the best month. June of this year was our biggest production month in the history of our company, and our company is 12 years old, so we've been around for a while, and we're pretty excited about that. But I'm hearing that from a lot of people. We'll see how the year continues, but in our area, and I've said this on my social media post, about the market, that it's really unbelievable. And people ask me, John, how's the market doing? What do you think is going to happen down the road? And I said, I don't forecast anymore. I traded my my magic ball or my fortune telling skills for pretty much just let's worry about today and see what the market is doing, because I just have no idea. The economy is so fickle. Right now, interest rates are so low. They've been low for years, but we're now for a 30-year loan, it's down to about 3.1%, and a 15-year mortgage is in the 2s. So, and there's talk that the 30-year mortgage may go down into the 2s. So we just have to wait and see. When my wife and I bought our first house in the 80s, I think we had 12.5% was our first mortgage, and then our second mortgage was 9.5%. It was an FHA loan, and I thought we died and went to heaven. But anyway, just strange times. But social media is an important thing for the real estate professional. So today, what I want to share with you, I wrote this in my book, Do You Have a Minute? A selfless plug. It's available on Amazon in paperback, audio, and Kindle versions. But I also wrote an article on my Inman column, I guess about 6 months ago, talking about social media. And, since the creation of Facebook, Facebook's been around since 2004, and then Twitter came around a couple of years later in 2006. Social media has grown exponentially. That's a tough word. Say that 12 times. Because there's millions of people that are posting stories, there's pictures, there's videos, advertisements. That's a whole nother topic. It seems like the ads are crazy. And other types of media online. This year, 2020, is an election year, so we're seeing a lot of that. There's a lot of information about the coronavirus on social media, both good and bad. The election is both good and bad. But I think what we have discovered as those of us who are connected in social media, that checking our social media accounts has really become part of our daily routine. And the use of these platforms like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram, it's just going to continue to grow. Social media is not going anywhere. The internet is not going anywhere. It has become such a it's really a fabric, part of the fabric of our life now. And where it used to be that television and newspapers were the media that we would look to, or the radio. Now, social media is where we're getting a lot of information, news and things like that. But social media plays a big role in real estate agents' marketing and advertising efforts. It's become a primary advertising tool for us, especially for listings and also for promoting an agent's business. Personal promotion is important, branding, things like that, letting people know that you are a real estate professional, and sharing your unique value proposition and how you stand out in the crowd. Social media is a great platform for that. So when you look at sites like Facebook and Twitter, they offer private pages for agents to post about issues they're facing in the local real estate market. And it's really not, I shouldn't say they're private, they're business pages. But there are private pages. There's what we call closed groups, especially on Facebook. Our company utilizes several closed groups. One that covers the entire company that only our agents are members of, and then each of our 7 offices has their own Facebook page. And I found that these closed or private groups are a great way to advertise listings, listings that you just received and that you wanted to promote those within your closed group. It's a great way to talk about the real estate market. Request recommendations for home inspectors, structural engineers, handymen, and other service providers. I have found that when I put a post on our closed Facebook page, for example, if I'm looking for a fence person or a roofer, I will get multiple recommendations. I'm very blessed because we have over 1,200 agents in our company. So, and on that closed Facebook page, we probably have about 800 people on there. So I always get a response. And as I said, I believe social media has replaced the old water cooler. or the picture album, or the office bulletin boards that we used to see years ago. Remember, we would go to the office and you'd see postings on a bulletin board of something that might be for sale. You might have a boat for sale or a car for sale, or you might announce an event that might be coming up. Well, now social media is that. The water cooler, you've heard that old expression about just hanging around the water cooler and talking. Well, Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, especially Instagram and Facebook, which are now, in a sense, one and the same because Facebook owns Instagram, they have replaced the water cooler. Picture albums. As I record this podcast, my studio is on the second floor of our house, and I'm looking across the room, and we have a bookshelf full of photos that my wife has taken over the years, and just 3-ring binder after 3-ring binder. I cannot remember the last time she put pictures in an album. We have everything now online. And especially with the cloud, we can store pictures in the cloud. There's so many pictures that she posts on Facebook and other platforms that she's a member of. So the picture album is gone. Now, I go through my accounts daily. I try not to go through them every 10 minutes, and I think that's one of the problems with social media. Because if I take an excessive amount of time, I've discovered early on that it becomes a time sucker. And what I mean by that's quote unquote a time, and I use that phrase. It takes me away from more meaningful and productive activities. The way social media works, as you all know, is that if you're checking your timeline on Facebook, and I usually hit most recent, and so the most recent posts show up, and I start scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. See something I like, I'll comment it or do a like or a haha. Facebook has all these emojis now. Is that what they're called, emojis? And we just keep on going. Well, the problem is before you know it, you've spent 20 minutes on your timeline. So it does take some discipline to not make it an excessive amount of your time. It takes productivity away. I participate in a lot of social media sites that are used for personal and family postings and several professional sites too, where I use and disseminate information from other real estate professionals and industry leaders. So I try to balance it out, the personal side and the professional side, especially being an author and a columnist. I want to promote the book because I'm a horribly selfish author and selfless author, whatever. No, selfish is the right word. Trying to get my book out there, not as much about selling the book, but getting in the hands of real estate professionals who can benefit from it. The columns, the Inman columns, whenever and I'm now publishing those once a month. I'm writing those once a month because the podcast, I'm doing more podcasting, and it takes time for both. But on the Inman columns, I always post those on my blog site, johngiffen.com. That's my personal site. And then I will always promote those through social media so people have an opportunity to click on the link. And so if I look at all this social media that I'm looking at, and you probably feel like it too, that sometimes I find it enjoyable viewing and entertaining, and other times I find it troubling. And there's been a lot of troubling stuff this year in 2020. I really want to take 2020 and flush it down the drain. It's been a horrible year for this world with a virus, and we had tornadoes in Nashville, and it's just there's been a lot of things across the country that have been happening. It's been a really unique and strange year, but there's no question that all aspects of social media are really part of our everyday lives. I mean, that's a given. So much so that our daily routines and experiences, they're being played out on social media like never before. Think about it. A baby is born, a grandbaby is born, a daughter gets married, you've got a promotion, you have a car to sell, you got a new car. There's just so much stuff that people post on social media. And some of these threads I regularly see on these sites are, from a wide variety of people. It's interesting because, and you probably can agree with me, that a lot of these folks are close friends, acquaintances, and fellow agents, people I work with in my profession. But also there's some complete strangers out there too. I'm trying to be careful with that because I'm trying to decide, when I get a friend request, the first thing I look at is who are their friends, and if we have any friends in common. Sometimes if they're in the real estate industry, and if you want to be my friend and you're in the real estate industry, please send me a friend request. You can find me on Facebook. Just type John Giffen, and I think I'm the first or second that shows up. But I get some weird requests too, and I delete those. But be careful on who you friend. Many of the comments that I see on these social media sites are strong opinions, and these opinions are on social issues. They're on political ideology and other worldview issues that may be viewed by some as inappropriate and maybe even insulting, and possibly harming some long-standing relationships. And what I mean by that is when you post something on Facebook or on Instagram, even on LinkedIn, you got to be really careful about what you say and a view that you might express, because that might be viewed by a client or a prospective client or a past client who might refer business to you or maybe want to use you again to sell or buy a home. They see a comment that you made. They might consider that as, I can't believe you said that. And it goes completely against their feeling of how things should be. So, and what I've found is, and really it's true, on a regular basis, I read threads full of arguments. There's heated discussions that go on and on with insults and insinuating things that really cross the line. As I said, they cross the line. And sadly, some of these come from my fellow real estate professionals. I monitor as the best I can our closed Facebook groups. It's tough because we have several of them, but I do have 7 brokers and a CEO that will look through the group to make sure that things are not being said that shouldn't be said, especially if they're incongruent with the values of our company. It's just amazing when an argument starts on social media to watch the bantering that goes back and forth. I've even seen it through people that I go to church with. And those are interesting threads too. So my thought is that, and I thought about this when I wrote the book, because social media is growing so much, that I really need to put some tips out there for real estate professionals to use to manage their social media post. So when we come back from the break, I'm going to go through these 7 tips, and I want you to really get a pen and paper, because I think this is very important, because social media has become that spotlight for professional folks, especially for us in real estate, because clients are out there, prospects are out there, and cooperating agents are out there. And you really need to be careful how you manage your social media. So when we come back, I will go through those 7 tips.
You're listening to the Broker Insights Podcast. Whether you're just starting out in the business or you've been at it for decades, your real estate career is about to take off. John Giffen draws on his experience as an award-winning managing real estate broker, million-dollar realtor, trainer, coach, and Inman News columnist to help agents just like you with all the questions you've wanted to ask. In his book, Do You Have a Minute? Inspired by hundreds of informal office chats with realtors that often begin, "Hey John, do you have a minute?" comes this comprehensive handbook. exploring 50 different real estate topics, including what it really takes to be a successful real estate agent, how to build your new real estate business or make your existing one thrive, how to get the listing every single time, how to effectively work with buyers. Plus, John opens his personal files, making available more than 24 charts, checklists, scripts, and forms that agents may adapt for their own use. If you've wanted a go-to resource that covers all things real estate, Do You Have a Minute is it. Available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook, and retail bookstores everywhere.
So these 7 tips to manage your social media post, again, I put these in my book. I also shared them in an Inman column, and they're on my blog. And I may revise these tips as social media continues to grow and as things sort of evolve with all the various social media platforms out there. So tip number 1, and I hope you got your pen and paper. So tip number 1 is think about what you want to say before you write or respond to a post. So if you see something, if you're scrolling through and reading posts from your friends or your connections on your Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, or Instagram, or any of the other social media timelines, think about how, or even if you want to respond to a post. In your mind, the words you write may not be considered controversial or offensive, but you never know how those words or expressions, and I put that expressions is in quotation marks, contained in any response that you're going to give these guys out on social media, how they're going to be received by the one who may be received by the one who wrote the post. So you got to be real careful how you respond to a post, because it might insult or offend the poster, and I guess you're the postee. Those are some new words, I guess. Let me give you an example. I've seen the word unbelievable. I used that just earlier as I was talking about our market. It's sort of my all-encompassing word. But I've seen that word being used in social media responses. And that word, unbelievable, can be interpreted as both positive and negative. It's one of the few words in the English language that really can have a meaning in 2 different ways. Let me give you an example. There's 2 phrases in using this word unbelievable. For example, completely unbelievable. Most agents are smart enough to remember to close the lockbox. So that phrase, when you hear the word completely unbelievable, that come and with the following few words that I said, most agents are smart enough to remember to close the lockbox. That has a sense of negativity, that you're really upset at that agent for not closing the lockbox, and the key is in public view, so anyone who walked up to a door and saw an open lockbox, they could take the key and open the house and steal everything the seller has. So anyway, I digress. The other term, the other example to use this term is, it's unbelievable he has reached that level of production in a short period. It's unbelievable he's reached that level of production in a short period. That's a positive thing. So the word unbelievable is a positive. Now listen, I know this sounds like a little thing, but one word or phrase can be taken the wrong way. So be real careful how you use words and how you phrase things. So number 1, again, is think about what you say before you write or respond to a post. Now number 2, keep all of your posts non-controversial and neutral. Sometimes it's hard because human beings are emotional. I mean, we have emotions. That's part of our DNA. We're emotional people. Some of us show our emotions a lot more demonstratively. We're really putting it out in front of people, and others sort of keep them hidden. But they do express their emotions, though, maybe through writing, and those could be to these posts. So no matter who you are, whatever you put down on a post could be taken the wrong way. So you need to keep in mind that your posts are going to be seen by a lot of people, including your current, as I said earlier, your current and past clients, your prospects, and those friends, and I say it over and over, but those friends who love, trust, and admire you are going to refer business to you. So be real careful what you write. If one of your posts appears to be a controversial subject with a disagreeing or different point of view from your client, trust me, it can backfire and cause damage to that relationship with the client and possibly do damage to your business. Think about this. If you have a house listed and you have a great relationship with the seller, and one Saturday morning your seller is on Facebook and they see a post about, I'll just use the example, the election, and your point of view about the person running for president of the United States is 180 degrees from theirs, they are upset at you. And that post may be changing the way they view you. And that's what I'm saying. It can do some damage. And especially if they read a thread in your post of people agreeing or disagreeing, and if you respond back to some of that thread, it's going to be a difficult conversation, especially when things went really well with the client. I know this sounds crazy, but it happens. And I think there really are two areas you got to steer away from. Do not talk politics on social media. You're guaranteed to create problems. And the other is religion. And I'm a very religious person. I'm a Christian, and we have so many different types of religions out there in the world. The great thing is that we're a melting, especially here in Nashville, it's a melting pot of backgrounds. But both of these, politics and religion, are really hot topics. And I've seen these threads in response to a post on these two issues get really offensive. My advice to you is stay away from these. So keep all of your posts neutral, non-controversial. Talk about real estate. People like to hear about how the market's doing. They want to hear what some of the latest trends are, things like that. You really can't go wrong with showing a picture of your new baby or grandbaby, people like that, or your dog. I have two dogs. I have a golden retriever and a husky corgi mix. Scrabble, I inherited Scrabble from my oldest son, and Scrabble is, it's a she, I'm sorry, but I was saying my son went to college. No, this was after he got out of college. Now I've got to remember why I have Scrabble. Well, I have Scrabble. I have Molly. She's my golden retriever. But anyway, long story short, on Facebook, my golden retriever interest, and Molly's our second golden retriever, I subscribe to the golden retriever owners group on Facebook. And it's a great group because all you see are happy golden retrievers. So it's not controversial. So I know that's sort of crazy. I digress again. One of the things you guys are going to learn about me in my podcast is I can fall off the rails for a few minutes, but I do get back on. So anyway, number 3, this is the third tip. Don't attack or berate other realtors using social media. The NAR, National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice, which we as real estate professionals who are members of the National Association of Realtors, we prescribe to our Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice. And the code clearly states we are not to make disparaging remarks towards one another. I have seen posts on Facebook and on LinkedIn, but primarily on Facebook, that have been pretty offensive when people are talking about other agents. We control that quite a bit in our company, and I'm very fortunate that we have such a good group of professionals. It is very rare that we see that, but I do see it with other realtors out there who are upset at others. So you got to be real careful about that. The code says, and if you look at Article 15 of our Code of Ethics, it reads, realtors shall not knowingly or recklessly make false or misleading statements about other real estate professionals, their businesses, or their business practices. Now, if you do this, you're going to find yourself, trust me, in front of your local Realtor Association Professional Standards Committee if you post something about a cooperating agent or a fellow agent on social media site that could be construed as defamatory or insulting. I have been an overseer of a grievance committee. I've been chairman of a grievance committee at a local association, and that is one of the more common grievances is when people have violated Article 15. Here's my advice. If you have an issue or a problem with a fellow real estate professional, you need to talk to him or her face to face to seek a resolution. And if you need to get your managing broker involved, he or she could contact that agent's managing broker and consult with them to see what we can do, to see what can be done to resolve things productively and positively. The last thing you want is a grievance. So, the bottom line is this: keep your opinions and comments of other agents to yourself. You can share that with your broker. And if you have been violated or injured, quote unquote, by another agent, and you feel like they have violated the code of ethics, standards of practice, then talk to your managing broker about filing a grievance, because that is an avenue that we have as realtors. So consider that. Number 4, a controversial post could cost your affiliation with your firm. Now, this is a good way to get fired, especially if it's really controversial. And I have actually, we have had to fire, I think, 2 agents over the 12 years or the 10 years I've been at Benchmark. And I know of 2. When I was a managing broker full time, now, as I said earlier, I'm director of broker operations. And I work with our managing brokers in so many different ways in the company. I have 7 of them that work with me. I review and they review social media accounts before and after hiring agents. That's the first thing we're going to do. If we find an agent who wants to join our company, I'm going to go to their Facebook page. I'm going to go to their Instagram page. I'm going to look at their LinkedIn. I'm going to try to search them the best I can. I want to look at their post. I want to look at their pictures. It tells me a lot. Pictures and words gives me a lot of information. I've got a great deal of concern when I see something that's incongruent with the values of our company. I talked about that a minute ago. If a current agent that I have is posting inappropriately, I'm going to have a serious discussion with them, and depending on the situation, take corrective action or release their real estate license from the firm. Most firms have in their independent contractor agreement language that says they will not do anything that would damage or harm or damage the reputation of the firm. So if you might want to take a look at your independent contractor agreement just to see if it has that language in there. We have that at Benchmark, and it really, if we find that someone has done something that's damaged our potentially damaged our reputation, then we're going to deal with it. And I'm not alone. You think about it. Let's look outside of our industry. Almost every industry now reviews social media before deciding to hire an employee. I have a couple of really good friends who are human resource professionals. They do hiring on a regular basis. And they tell me that's one of the it's on their checklist of reviewing social media. So you need to make sure all your posts that you as a real estate professional are going to keep your managing broker happy. Because if you have a happy managing broker, you're going to be a happy agent. So that was number 4. Number 5, remember what you post on social media can advance or hinder your career. You never think about that, but it's true. Social media is such a big asset. It's a huge asset to your real estate business. Both agents and brokers through the brokerages continuously share property listings. They do market analysis and real estate news with those they know. And I am probably a member of 9 real estate groups on Facebook, probably another 5 or 6 on LinkedIn. I grew my business over the years by posting to all the significant social media sites on a regular schedule. When social media really started, I got in early with it, and I learned how to post, especially on Facebook. It takes organization and discipline to regularly post, but it's worth it. Now, those 2 words is organization and discipline. But you got to keep in mind, poor judgment in what you write on social media can also hinder your real estate career. So you got to be disciplined not only in, posting on an ongoing basis, but what you post. And so that's where organization is going to be important. So you can sort of think about what you want to put on your Facebook page and also on your LinkedIn and Instagram pages. And, and guys, I know we all have opinions, and we want to share those opinions with others. I'm at the front of the list. I've got opinions on everything. But you got to consider who's looking at those posts. And again, as I said, you're going to have past clients out there. You're going to have current clients out there. You're going to have prospects. You're going to have neighbors, club members, friends, family, all different types of people. And these are the people that you're going to depend on for referrals. And most of these folks are on social media. There's a few that are not, but I guarantee you most of them are. And once it's out there, it's out there. You can take it down. You can take that post down. But remember, anyone can take a screenshot of what you posted. And that's what people forget. It is so easy to take a screenshot. On Macs, I have a MacBook Pro. All I have to do is click a button, and it takes a screenshot for me. And I always refer back to this old saying that closing the stable door after the horse is bolted, the horse is out there. It's going to be hard to get him back in. So, and probably won't be able to. And so another thing is it's human nature that people always remember the negative post more than any positive post. It's true. We think about the negative more than we do the positive. And if they share your negative posts with others, it's going to be difficult to repair that damage because it's like a virus. And I hate to use that word in this year, but it spreads. And once it spreads, it's going to be hard to contain it. So just be aware of that. So keep in mind that whatever you put out there could impact your career. The sixth tip, social media is one tool in your toolbox. It's just one tool. It's one of many tools that you should have in your toolbox, in your business toolbox. As I said earlier, social media is an excellent avenue for marketing your property listings. It's going to be a great way to share the news of your neighborhood or your community, as well as what's happening in local and national real estate market, in the local and national real estate markets. So, you need to educate and inform your prospects and clients through what you post on social media. It's critical that you use this as a positive tool. Watch any response you compose to posts written by others. Don't use social media to be your bully pulpit on issues that could land you in hot water. Keep it at a professional level. And I can't stress that enough. Really, what you post is a reflection on who you are. Social media can be a very successful communication and marketing component of your business plan. And I always put that in our business planning workshops. We're going to talk about how, and I'm going to do a podcast on social media. I'm going to try to bring someone in to interview who is much more skilled at social media than I am. But it should be part of your business plan, your strategy, as you grow your business. And just remember, social media needs to be managed carefully. It needs to be managed sensibly and responsibly. So just keep that in mind. Now, number 7, the last one. Do not let social media devour your time. I talked about this earlier using the term time sucker. I learned a long time ago, guys, scrolling through those various posts, as I said, can be all consuming. I did it even before I came on to record this podcast. I was looking through to think, okay, I'm thinking about a quote that I might share with these guys. And then I got into Facebook and I got a reminder on the screen. Someone posted and I looked at that and then I started my index finger up and down. So, but I caught myself because I really wanted to get the podcast going. There's so many hours in the day for you to be productive in selling real estate. Don't waste those productive hours. Don't let the attraction of fascinating articles, pictures, and video distract you from the vital work on your daily to-do list. I put this in the book because we are. I mentioned Molly, my golden retriever, earlier. Social media and the way we behave sometimes at social media is like Molly. We'll take Molly on a walk. And Molly's fine. She's sniffing grass and all this and doing everything. But all of a sudden, she sees a squirrel or she sees a bird and she goes crazy. And then she's fine. So we walk a little bit more. And then she sees another dog and she goes crazy. I'll be outside throwing a ball, and we're doing great, and all of a sudden she sees a bug, and she's distracted by that. We can be like golden retrievers when it comes to looking through social media. My advice is you need to spend a maximum of about 10 to 15 minutes each morning and also at the night reviewing your social media post. I know it doesn't seem like a great deal of time, but in the end, you really don't have a lot of time to lose. You might be able to spend a little bit more time, maybe around lunchtime if you have some free time. But what I'm trying to stress here is don't use the time that you have to be productive in growing your business by just looking at post after post after post after post after post. So you need to be disciplined and plan your social media time in a useful way. So those are the 7 tips. And I hope you were able to write those down. If you want to see my article, you can read my article that I wrote in my Inman News column. It's on my website, www.johngiffen.com, and just go into the archives, or you can search too, and you should be able to find it. And it's very consistent with what I talked about today. So let me leave you with this, and I'll conclude with this. As a real estate professional, you got to keep your post neutral and non-controversial. I cannot stress that enough. Always assume your clients and your fellow agents, your peers, are reading your post and viewing your videos. And in today's cyber-savvy consumer world, which we are in, prospects and past clients might make a decision on choosing you as their agent based on what they read on your social media sites. And if you create, and as I talked about this earlier, if you create a fire on social media with any opinions and conversations that are contentious, you're going to find yourself trying to fix that damage that could be beyond repair. So I hope this has helped you, and maybe if anything, it's been a reminder to you, because I'm probably preaching to the choir. I believe that most of us are responsible, but it can only take one post that gets out of hand to do damage. And it's sort of like walking through a gas refinery with a Bic lighter. You just don't want to light that Bic lighter, but you need to manage yourself through that refinery. It's sort of like social media. You light that lighter, things could blow up. So just be careful. Guys, I really appreciate your time listening on the second episode of the Broker Insights podcast. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. I have arranged for several interviews that'll be coming up in the podcasts down the road in the not too distant future. Got one on teams. I've asked a team leader who has a very large team to talk to us about teams. I also have a principal broker who is going to talk to us about expectations of a broker and how agents can develop strong relationships with their managing broker. I also have a stager, a professional stager, who's going to give us some tips on staging a home. And hopefully that podcast will be beneficial, that you can share it with your sellers, your future sellers, homeowners who are considering listing their homes. Professional staging is so important to get a house ready. If it's dressed right, priced right, and ready to go, it'll sell. I also have and this may be my first interview of an agent who I met with about a year and a half ago, who's used the tool that I gave him of the importance of doing simple handwritten notes, and got his business back up and going. And I believe those notes alone contributed to about $6 million worth of closings. So I'm going to try to get him on pretty soon, and he's got a lot of ideas to share with you. So do I, on doing some personal touch marketing, which I think will help. Well, guys, until next time, I'm John Giffen, and get out there and sell something and make it a great day.
Thanks for joining us on the latest Broker Insights podcast with John Giffen. Make sure to visit the show's website at www.brokerinsights.net, where you can subscribe to the show so you can listen to each new episode. If you have a question or a comment for John, make sure you drop him an email at john@johngiffen.com or visit his website at johngiffen.com to read his Inman News columns and blog posts on how to be a better real estate professional. Also, find a wide variety of invaluable resources and tools you can download for free that will help you grow your business and take your real estate career to the next level.